outside, Nathan. What would you prefer? Yellow spandex?
The answer to your question is yes. This is a bad image, but looks way better than these stupid black latex suits, or leather suits, whatever. Welcome to the new millennium. I was born, and the first Marvel movie of the millennium was released called X-Men. What's a perfect way to start your superhero film? Yeah, I'm not joking. They literally start with the Holocaust, which is a part of one of the characters' backstories. However, in this film, it's not really mentioned or brought up. Well, X-Men says that the best way is to start with the Holocaust. It's just this one scene, but they want to start on a dark tone, and they succeeded, that's for sure. Anyway, the X-Men need no introduction. They're one of Marvel's most popular group of characters, created in the 1960s by the legendary Stan Lee and Jack Kirby. They actually didn't start off too well. They're a lot different than they are nowadays. In the 70s, they were given a whole rebrand with a bunch of new characters, and that would go on and go on to be one of their most popular characters and franchises. So, of course, Fox was up all over those rights to get to the X-Men, and they decided they would be the first character, especially since they were really popular at this point in time, especially the 90s cartoon. And they watched that, believe it or not, to make this movie. But seeing as comic book movies aren't really a mainstay yet, this is one of the films to actually help that genre, they decided to go more darker. The characters don't wear costumes. I mean, they do get costumes at the end of the movie, but it's just basic black leather that looks it's fine, but, the costumes from the comics are way better. So the film decides to go more realistic and more subdued, which is fine, I guess. I mean, X-Men does fit in that category, since they always deal with some more deeper topics about prejudice and other things like that, so it works for the most part. And the film focuses on all the popular X-Men characters, though mostly Wolverine, who is played by Hugh Jackman. Believe it or not, this was considered a controversial casting choice at the time, since he was a relatively unknown actor, mostly doing theater shows, and he was also not Canadian like the character, and because he was Australian, and he's tall, and Wolverine in the comics is a short guy. But he ended up winning a lot of audiences over in the film and becoming the most iconic superhero casting of all time. As a matter of fact, he's not stopped playing Wolverine even after his characters died multiple times. Even in the current MCU, he's still apparently Wolverine, which is fucking insane. That's 20 years, and he still looks pretty good in the costume. Well, the actual costume, which took 20 years for him to wear. This casting is pretty great, he does a great job, and this effect for this claws here is pretty good for 2000. The reason why I mention that here is because later in a future film we're going to see a really bad version of the claw effect for some reason, even though they already did it fine here. The biggest shock about this film is that not really much happens. It feels pretty short. It just kind of feels like more like here's an introduction to the characters where we really get into them, which the other films really do. It's really just Wolverine and Rogue going on a little adventure until they meet with the X-Men and they have a little bonding thing, and then it's over before you know it. This version of Rogue is also pretty different. She's played by Anna Paquin. I think that's how you say it. I do not know how to say the last names. I'm really bad. And they have a nice bond. The only problem is that this version of Rogue is pretty different. Other than having powers that suck people's abilities, I think. I don't even know if she really can, actually. She's pretty far removed from her comic book counterpart. She did not suck Miss Marvel's powers, so she doesn't have flair or super strength, and she's kind of just a meek girl who's just kind of scared of everything. Which I guess makes sense. This is a realistic take. But it's a little shame, pal. Also, fun fact for this character, the character didn't actually have a real name until this movie. So in the movie, they gave her the name Marie instead of just Rogue. And then the comics are like, okay, we'll keep that, but we'll call her Anna Marie because the actress' name is Anna. Huh? You like that? Fun fact. When it comes to think about this film actually has a lot of pretty good castings. One of them is with a villain played by Sir Ian McKellen as Magneto. Other than his plan in this movie not being that great, this was a great casting, and I'm glad he's still around, even though he's old as shit, still playing this character. But yeah, he really fixed the character, especially since this film is prejudiced against more people, and the second movie really showcases things analog to the gay rights movement. And that fits since the actor himself happens to be gay, and he might love Patrick Stewart. That's something that relates to the movie in real life. I mean, perfect casting right there. And I'm not making this up, this actually happened. Speaking of which, Patrick Stewart as Professor X is another great casting, even though he also doesn't do a whole lot in this film, which is another problem with this film. Magneto's main goal is that some senator hates mutants, is getting mutants' rights to go away, and he mutates him illegally, I guess. And this creates some really bizarre effects, like this. That's just bizarre. I mean, it's hard to feel too bad for this because he's an evil conservative senator, but he does learn to change his ways right before he dies. He's like, I guess I'll still be on mutants because now I'm kind of am one, and then he dies. Pretty grotesque. Like, ugh, that's disgusting. But hey, if your kids weren't traumatized by this scene, they can get this as a toy! Yeah, I'm not joking, this exists. It came with a Jean Grey figure. I don't know why it cracks me up. Why would they make this into a toy? This is fucking disgusting. Anyway, here's a speed run through some of the other characters before we talk about some other things. Jean Grey is just there. She doesn't really have much going on there, much like a lot of the other secondary X-Men. Wolverine thinks she's hot, she's dating Cyclops, and that's about it. She's fine. Cyclops is James Marsden, and that's about it. He wears sunglasses and has a motorcycle. He doesn't even do a whole lot of team leading. Even this scene clip, he's barely in it. His main thing's saying, Wolverine, keep away from my girl. And Wolverine's like, you're a loser. He's like, yeah, I don't like you either. So not a whole lot going on there for Cyclops. This film isn't too good for its extended cast, let's just say that. There's also Storm, played by Halle Berry, which is an interesting casting. In the film, she does try to do an accent since the character is from Africa, but it's pretty bad and inconsistent, and then from the later movies, it's not even there. But she does have one iconic line that I have to play for you guys here.
You know what happens to a toad when it's struck by lightning? The same thing that happens to everything else.
That's some Oscar-winning performance right there. Though really, this is a really bad matchup for Toad here. He's just got a long tongue, he can jump around, and Storm really has powers of the weather, so he was gonna be fucked either way. So yeah, Magneto has a rogues gallery, most of whom suck ass. Like, there's actually not his rogue gallery, it's Wolverine. But Sabretooth, who's supposed to be a really strong rival to Wolverine in the comics, is just a guy who just tussles with him every now and then and gets his ass whipped. He's also an idiot. Throughout the movie, we see him constantly get his ass kicked and failing at everything that Magneto wants him to do, so you never know why he sticks around. He also is kind of just a ridiculous character in general, his design, but whatever. That's what the film thought would be cool. But yeah, this guy, he sucks. It's actually one of the few things that X-Men Origins Wolverine does right, is that character, but not in this film. So Magneto only really has one incompetent henchman, or henchwoman I should say, does a lot of his heavy lifting. So they decided that in order to make Mystique look realistic, they're gonna make her naked. And that's with this very interesting design. If you don't know, in pretty much every media, Mystique has like a white dress outfit that she wears, so she's never fully naked, even though she has blue skin. I guess Bryan Singer, the creep he is he the creep guy or someone else? I don't know. I think he is. You can tell me in the comments. They decided, yeah, we're gonna make her naked and paint a model with bloobs, yeah. Though I'm not complaining. I actually wish I was in his place right now. It's I mean, she has some leg power there, I won't lie. This character does things to me. Whoa. And she likes Magneto. Unfortunately, he's not into her that way. We already know who he prefers. So, in case you're wondering, the plot of the movie is that Magneto wants to use Rogue's powers of sucking up abilities in order to transfer mutant genes into other people. He's doing this near UN Council, which is some reason near Liberty Island, which usually it isn't, but whatever. Maybe it is, I don't fucking know. You know who stops him? Wolverine. You know, the guy you can easily stop with metal? I don't know why they sent him up there, it's not a good idea, but he somehow succeeds. The rest of the movie, though, is just Wolverine. It's just like hanging around in the X-Mansion with Rogue a little bit, and they're like, why did I attack you in my sleep? It's kind of a weird scene. Don't ask me questions about it. It doesn't make sense. Like I said, it's mostly just a bunch of establishing of these characters for the audiences who don't know anything about them, and it's fine, but it definitely leaves a lot to be desired. There are some interesting themes about prejudice here, but it's not really delved into that much. And mostly we're just here to see these characters, and they are fun, and the mansion they live in is pretty interesting. And overall, that's fine, but story-wise, there's not a whole lot given here. This really is just a setup for the next film, which ends with Wolverine leaving, looking for his past memories, because he doesn't have his memories. It's kind of a main thing here, but not really. And of course, that will come in the second movie. It also sets up Magneto's prison scene, where he has a glass prison, which is pretty cool, actually. And of course, the biggest thing is that the Senator is still alive. Well, just kidding. He's actually Mystique in disguise, which you can tell because his eyes turn yellow when he looks at the camera. I guess no one else can see that. But yeah, the X-Men first film is fine, but definitely leaves a little bit to be desired, which we'll get when we come to X2. Now that's a pretty good film. I decided to put the X-Men into C tier. I feel like it could be a little lower, maybe a little higher. I'm not too sure. It's one of those films I would think about. It's like, it's kind of a weird film, isn't it? When I watch it, like, yeah, it's enjoyable. It definitely feels like a fast film. Like, everything goes pretty fast. Even the ending fight scene just leaves a little bit to be desired. Even though it's on the Statue of Liberty, which is pretty neat. And honestly, I didn't have a whole lot to talk about this film. Just because there's a whole lot of... It feels like a whole lot set for X2, to be honest. And I guess I'd watch X2 instead. if you're curious, watch it. But honestly, there is a lot better X-Men films coming out of the Fox universe. This does really start the Fox Marvel universe that they kind of did, which weren't really connected, but yeah. Anyway, next time we'll be covering Blade 2 before we get into one of my ultimate favorites. Not Blade 2, but the one that comes after Blade 2, which, if you know anything about me, maybe you do, but maybe you don't. But yeah. Anyway, thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.